of privilege and a factor 2 days a week. This heat tech is not rushed to find income, but the hindering that journals to the neighbors debate and hope of our potential. How do we fix the world? I think you shared your last puppy. You just made it better. And I believe that when we grow up together, we can do much more. Hey there, global listeners. Get ready for the hottest discussions on the airwaves. Roundtable. Your path to a part of China's burgeoning society. Conflict, lifestyle trends, and massive policies. We're tackling them head on with wit, wisdom, and a whole lot of fun. It's going to be in the eyes and voices of the people. Your unique global perspective on topics that resonate universally. Join us for the exciting time on Roundtable. We bridge gaps and break barriers, one discussion at a time. Don't just listen, we transform. Discussion keeps the world turning.
Playbook. That playbook now exists. We'll explore the new global standard forged by China and 13 other nations that's becoming the essential handbook for a renewable future. After that, as China enters into the winter season, an invisible danger emerges indoors. We're not just talking about the cold itself, but the problems that come with fighting it. What does it look like to replace the age-old smoke of coal with the clean hum of a heat pump? This is the story of staying warm without getting hurt. Our podcast listeners can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, we love to hear your voice as well. So send your voice notes our way. Roundtable Podcast at qq.com. Once again, Roundtable Podcast at qq.com. And now, think of the global power system as the world's most complex engineering puzzle. As colossal wind and solar farms, like those emerging in China's deserts, connect to the grid, ensuring that they communicate seamlessly and safely, well, that's the ultimate challenge. In a major breakthrough for the energy transition sector, China, in collaboration with 13 nations, has just launched a new international standard. The standard itself provides a unified global language for dynamic simulation. That's the critical tool engineers use to model and prevent grid collapses. This promises to build safer, more reliable power networks worldwide. What does it mean when a universal standard is introduced, and how will it specifically guard against blackouts? As our dependence is growing, isn't it, on the sun and the wind? It's a bit of a complicated topic.
So China has successfully launched and published its first international standard in the field of new energy generation modeling technology. And this international standard was developed through 4 years of collaborative efforts involving experts from China and 13 other countries, including Germany, France, and the United States. This standard provides the first standardized generic simulation model for new energy generation systems, which is crucial for the dynamic simulation and also sentient stability and safety in power systems integrated with large-scale new energy sources. So what does that actually mean? What does this standard actually do? Yeah, to be honest, through all of these works that I just won't do, I don't quite get it. This new international standard defines a kind of a unified, universal simulation model for renewable power units that uses converters such as wind turbines and solar inverters. So first of all, they're for new energy, let's say, power plants. And in simple terms, it tells manufacturers how their equipment should be modeled, right? Tells software developers how to implement their renewable energy models. Gives grid operators a kind of common language to evaluate whether their renewable energy can be safely connected, and ensures wind and solar plants behave consistently in simulations, and no matter which country they are in or whose sector is used, they have that kind of the same language to communicate with and to operate everything smoothly without having any kind of huge blackouts to happen.
You can think of it as perhaps the USB protocol, but this is in terms of renewable energy modeling. It's like one set of rules so that different devices and makers and systems can work together seamlessly. Before USB, for example, USB-C, every phone brand had its own charger. Insanely annoying, right? You'd have to find that specific charger. Well, that would be the different languages, I guess, that you were referring to a moment ago. It would be really frustrating, really wasteful, and things wouldn't work together. But then along came USB-C, and it became like a universal standard. So it wouldn't matter if a charger was made in Korea, for example, that would work seamlessly with a laptop that was made in China or the USA or wherever. So the grid standard is kind of doing the same thing. It's that universal plug and play protocol for renewable energy. And this means that clean power from any source made by any company from any country can be safely integrated into any grid anywhere in the world. It allows all of these engineers and scientists working on these different projects from different companies in different parts of the world to speak the same language.
Yeah, so I think it sort of makes sense that we have the standard now simply because the amount of wind and solar power are feeding into the grid are growing. So it sort of challenges the entire power systems because, when we are thinking about our old power systems in the past, for example, when most of our power comes from coal or gas or water even, it seems like it's a constant pump into the system. But now when it comes to wind and solar, it's very difficult to predict. You don't know when they're going to come. You don't know how much are going to come into the system. So it poses great challenges to, for example, we saw this massive blackouts in Europe this summer simply because the change of weathers are challenging the grid. And stability is basically core to any grid operating. We need a stable grid so that factories won't just suddenly stop working and our devices and equipment can stay safe at homes. So I think it's one step of finally acknowledging and incorporating new energies into our system.
And that's why we need this standard in place.
Yeah, for the fact that nowadays, new energy, of course, globally, we are chasing for that kind of a greener future, and more new energy is becoming the power source of many areas. And for the fact that new energy surpassed coal power here in China, becoming the largest power source in the system, and that with a cumulative installed capacity reaching more than 1.4 billion kilowatts, this accounts for about 42% of the total. China, that's from economic theory. So the higher the share of renewable energy, the more rely on accurate simulation models to predict things.
Yeah, and like Feifei said, what happens when strong winds suddenly hit? What happens when clouds suddenly block the sun? If you don't have a unified standard, then different manufacturers, build their own models. Different software uses different assumptions on how to handle different problems. And in different countries, they'll speak a different language. Of course, a different technical language, too. And that can lead to inconsistent results, and that can make it harder to ensure grid safety. Imagine a wind turbine that was made in Denmark. It might be used in a project in Brazil that's connected to a grid that's managed by engineers in Germany that's using software that was developed in the United States. Well, if those players in that game, if you will, if they're all speaking a different technical language, then it wouldn't make things very simple. But with that standard in place, again, to use our term plug and play, there's no need for any type of technical translation. It's guaranteed to work no matter where it's developed, where it's made, in what part of the world. You take it somewhere else, and it'll apply there as well.
It just simplifies
The whole process. Now, that being said, how are they planning to implement this new standard?